Talk to you about the dispute letter mistakes that you need to avoid this year. So, if you are trying to build credit, if you are trying to repair some mistakes on your credit report, and you sending dispute letters to the credit bureaus, there are some mistakes you need to avoid big time. So, here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. The thing is that when you think about dispute letters, you got to think about a methodical way. You got to be strategic. You got to also think about the timing. Okay, you can't really just send a dispute letter, let's say randomly. Even if you have, let's say, a justifiable cause, you got to time you got to really pay attention to the time you send the dispute letters to the credit bureaus. Okay, you do not want to send a letter to the credit bureaus that shoots yourself in the shoot, right? That actually cements a bad account to your report, like Gorilla Glue. It's one of those things where you got to be in a situation where you know exactly what you want, you know that you're right, and you know exactly how to go about getting what you want. Okay, there's a lot of bad information on YouTube, on the internet, on Facebook, on TikTok about credit repair. So, into this conversation, I want to really explain certain things to you. There's also a lot of bad free letters on the internet that will sabotage your efforts. I mean, it's kind of funny. Like the last time our team saw a bunch of templates, quote unquote templates, on Pinterest that really, that really were pertaining to credit repair or dispute letters, and those templates were really, really bad. Okay, so the thing is that you got to be really, really clear as to what you want. Now, there are three mistakes that you do not want to make in your dispute letters if you are sending them to credit bureaus. The first one is giving more than one reason for requesting a deletion. One letter equal one reason. That's what the best credit repair pros do, right? If you put all your reasons into one letter, then if they actually send you back, let's say a form letter denial, you got nothing new to send for round two. So you always want to be methodical. You always want to go one by one. Okay. So number two, telling them specifically what's wrong. You got to really tell the bureaus what's really wrong, and don't try to really beat around the bush. You got to be really clear. So it's not your job to fix things for the credit bureaus. If you tell them the balance is incorrect, then they will update the balance and your score will go down. If you tell them the date for the late payment is wrong, they'll fix the date and your score will go down. Don't do that, right? Instead, make this truthful statement. This account is showing factually incorrect, delete account. And you got to be very specific. Okay, so this account is showing factually incorrect data, delete account. Another mistake you want to really avoid here is that, if you enclose a copy of your letter to the creditor, let's say Visa, Santander, Macy's, TD Bank, Chase, there is no reason the credit bureau should see the contents of your letter to the creditor. I mean, they're not really, this is not a two-party or a three-party transaction. This is a two-party transaction between you and the creditor. And so the letter you send to the credit bureaus has nothing to do with the letter you sent to the creditor in the first place. Remember that the creditor actually is the furnisher of the report, is the reporter, okay? If you are stating, for instance, that you did not receive a reply from the creditor, simply state that with the date you sent it. That's all. No need to really provide extra documentation, extra evidence, okay? Also, another mistake you want to avoid is actually send any dispute letter before you have cleaned up your personal identifiers. I mean, see, the thing is, when you send a dispute letter, the credit bureau pays attention a lot to the personal identifiers, because that's what really identifies you, right? That's really that's logically the first thing you need to look at to make sure that that's correct. So name misspellings, nicknames, address errors, social security number or date of birth errors. I mean, those are really, really, really bad, and those are very simple mistakes too. So avoid them, okay? And so that's really important. Now, don't just think about, hey, listen, I'm gonna do this real fast because I don't have time. You need to make up the time for it. And the thing is that if you already sent a bad letter, that's really one of the things that you have to ask yourself. Do you want to really go about fixing it yourself? Do you have time, or would you rather just go to professionals because you have credit repair bureaus credit repair bureaus, repair services that will help you out, right? So, three mistakes. Don't tell them more than one reason. Number two, tell them exactly what's wrong. And number three, you want to avoid enclosing a copy of your letter to the creditor. Okay, when you actually are corresponding with the credit bureau. And one thing I want to say here is that don't forget that this is when you send a dispute letter. This is just the beginning of a whole journey, really. So if you're thinking about dispute letters, mistakes to avoid, let me give you a few best practices that you really need to incorporate in your agenda this year, especially if you are trying to fix things in a consistent manner and also in a permanent manner, okay? So when it comes to sending letters to dispute letters to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, you have to really understand. There are two things you have to understand. First of all, the law is on your corner, right? The law is on your side. The law, that is the FCRA, the Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA. That's number one. The second thing is that those three credit bureaus, they receive thousands of dispute letters every single day. Yours is not the only one, okay? You have you have more than 300 million Americans, and of whom 200 million are actually they might have an account, a credit account. So they will have issues, okay? So if the credit bureaus are receiving thousands of dispute letters every day, you got to go straight to the point, and you got to really also be methodical. Why? Because the bureaus use an automated process that scans the incoming envelopes, removes the enclosed documents, scans the pages, and then routes them to the appropriate department. So you have some form of automation that's really creeping into the way the credit bureaus manage the letters. Okay, so many details can trigger this process to disqualify a dispute letter, for instance. So into this conversation, I want to give you a few best practices that you need to really follow so that you can avoid some of the common mistakes. Okay, first of all, what kind of envelope should you use to send a dispute letter? Well, use a closed-faced envelope. Windowed envelope will alert the bureau that you are likely working with a credit repair company, and credit bureaus prefer to receive disputes directly from the consumer, and they may deny disputes sent by a credit repair, let's say a credit repair agency, okay? And so if the credit repair company you are working with is worth their salt, they will know how to prepare and send the letters to ensure that the credit bureaus send responses directly back to you, okay? And now, what return address should you use for a dispute letter? Well, it depends. It really depends on how you want to really work things, okay? Now, let me explain to you basically what I mean here. The thing is that when you actually dealing with the credit bureaus, you have to really ask yourself, do you want an answer real fast? If you are working with a credit repair company, ensure that the return address is actually your personal address and not the credit repair company's address. The wrong address will alert a bureau to actually deny the dispute before the envelope is even open. Now, when you think about what you should put in your dispute letter, be very clear here. So you want to put the date you will mail the letter, the credit bureau's full mailing address, your information, including your full name and address, date of birth, and the relevant account name and or credit report number, the name of the creditor or collection agency that made the error in the first place. In other words, the furnisher of the data, the reporter. Your reason for submitting the dispute. This could be identity theft, fraud, typos, miscalculations. And also you have to have a supporting documentation relevant to each dispute, such as a proof of address, proof of identity, payment receipts, bank statements, and the credit report itself, with each disputed item circled or highlighted. Okay. Now, should you actually print the dispute letter in a specific format? It really depends. Again, you want to make life easy, very easy for the credit bureaus. So you got to really ask yourself, how can you make their lives easier? Avoid printing on both sides. Assume that your enclosed documents will be removed and processed automatically, and the backside of the pages will not be scanned. If only part of the info is scanned, the credit bureau may not see all the data needed to fix an error on your report. So this could actually result in your dispute being denied, and you do not want to avoid. You do not want to have your dispute being denied. Okay. Now, if you're not really sure, let's say what kind of format your letter should have, the Federal Trade Commission provides a simple letter you can actually follow. Okay. Should you make copies of the dispute letter's content? Yes, yes, definitely. You always want to see. You want to send copies of your supporting documents, never the originals. Okay, keep the originals on file until the dispute is resolved. It also can't hurt to make a copy of the address and stamped envelope before you mail it. Additionally, you can always make sure the business has received your letter by mailing the letter as a certified mail with return receipts requested. So that's really important. Now, nothing happens quickly with credit reporting agencies or even with creditors for that matter. So once you have mailed your dispute letter, the credit bureaus legally have 30 days. That's what the law tells them. They have 30 days, 30 to 45 days to send you a response. So that's really good. And again, the law is FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act. Let me talk to you about the extras here. So the thing is that there are some free credit dispute letter templates, okay, where you are able to get things done a lot faster. So you also want to remove items from your credit report if you have ever noticed a suspicious, let's say, some kind of suspicion, let's say a suspicious charge in your credit card statements. There is a high possibility you are dealing with identity theft. And identity thieves actually often make several purchases using your info, or even open new lines of credit or accounts in your name. Okay, that's really bad. And this can reflect terribly on your credit, making your score much lower than it actually is. And alternatively, credit reporting agencies can themselves make mistakes, causing a major issue to your credit report as well. And so the thing is that when this unfortunate situations occur, do not actually hesitate to actually reach out to pros. If you can't handle it yourself, I mean, you can have a credit report lawyer, a credit repair agency, okay, and so it's one of those things where you want to really, if you can write the credit dispute letter yourself, okay, but if you cannot, if you don't have time, then you can just reach out to a professional. The big question is, do credit dispute letters work? Well, they do in some cases, okay. And so while people generally tend to avoid conflict, in some cases, it becomes necessary to fight for your rights, or you can end up facing terrible consequences for years to come, right? So this is why you want to really make sure that you send a dispute letter. Now, the thing is that when you send a dispute letter, remember that the law is always on your side. And the law actually is the FCRA. I've said this before, but the Fair Credit Reporting Act is supposed to ensure that when companies collect the information of consumers, they must follow strict rules about sharing private information. Okay, a shocking fact, however, is that a huge majority of reports made by even the top 3 most reputable credit reporting agencies are actually riddled with tiny mistakes and errors. So this is really this could be problematic. One thing I want to say here is that when it comes to credit reporting agencies or credit dispute letters for that matter, I want to show you on the screen here what kind of what to really include in a credit dispute letter. I've said this before, but this time I want to be more granular. So I'm showing you on the screen here a simple credit dispute letter. So basically, if you were to send a credit dispute letter, you want to follow this format. If you need more information, please reach out to us, and we'll certainly get back to you. We'll send you a free template for you to follow. That's totally fine. Okay. So you want to put your first name, last name. You always want to put your first name, last name. I mean, that's your personal identifier. Okay. So you want to tell the bureau that you are who you say you are, and you have to prove it too, by the way. And you have to put your address. That's really important. Your address. You want to put your city, state, and zip. So that's kind of important if it comes to a certain level of granularity. So your address, your geographic address, your date. I mean the date, not your date. The date you are sending the dispute letters to the credit bureau, and you have to really specify which credit bureau name you are sending the info to: TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. And you got to put the city, state, zip, okay? And then all you have to do here is that you have to follow exactly this statement. So, dear sir or ma'am, I'm writing to dispute the accuracy of the information contained in my credit report. The details in question are as follows. So you have to really sort of specify where the errors really lies, okay? The account name, you have to put the creditor's name. The account number, you have to put the account number. And in terms of inaccuracy, you have to describe the error in detail. Again, I want you to insist on the fact that here we want granular facts. And then you have to say, attached to this letter are copies of the supporting documents that substantiate my claim. I kindly request a thorough investigation of this matter and the prompt correction of the info on my credit report. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, you put your first name, last name, and then you put your signature. Don't forget to sign. So when you think about the dispute letter mistakes to avoid, you have to understand the errors you can dispute and the errors that are worth disputing, okay? So errors you can dispute. Let's quickly talk about that. You can actually dispute various types of errors on your credit report, including incorrect personal information. So that's your personal identifier. So here I'm speaking about your first name, last name, your address, your social security number. Also, you can dispute inaccurate account balances. You can dispute unauthorized accounts or inquiries. You can have duplicate accounts, for instance, outdated information. So outdated information, that's pretty good in terms of if you want to instill a level of accuracy in how you work. And also incomplete payment history. So those are things you can certainly dispute, not a problem. Now, there are some errors not worth disputing. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to really ask yourself, how worth is your time, right? How worthy is it? You do not want to waste your time on certain minimal or certain minor issues. So while addressing significant errors on your credit report is important, disputing trivial or minor issues may not be worth your time and effort. Minor discrepancies that do not significantly impact your credit score or financial standing may actually not be worth your time or may not be worth pursuing in the first place. Let me talk to you about where to mail your credit dispute letter. Let's talk about that. And I'll be putting this on the screen so that it's pretty clear to you how to really do the strategy here. So to ensure your credit dispute letter reaches the appropriate credit bureau, mail it to the address specified by the bureau on their website. Every credit bureau has its own mailing address for dispute letters. Make sure to send your letter via certified mail with a return receipt requested for documentation purposes. That's important. So what are the pros and cons of mailing dispute letters here? Well, first of all, when you actually, the pros, you have written record, right? Mailed letters provide tangible evidence of your dispute and your correspondence with the credit bureau. Formality, when written letters are considered more formal and may be taken more seriously. And you also have supporting documentation. So you can include copies of supporting documents with your letter. What about the cons here? Well, the whole process can be time consuming. I mean, there's a certain protocol to really follow. Mailing letters may result in longer processing times than online methods. And you also have lack of immediate confirmation. So you won't receive instant confirmation that the credit bureau received your letter in the first place. So it's one of those things where you have to see what works for your specific situation. Now, there are other ways to dispute your credit report. You can initiate an online dispute, yeah, or you can initiate a phone dispute. I mean, that's totally possible too. In conclusion to this conversation, I spoke to you about dispute letter mistakes to avoid. I gave you the overview, the best practices, the extras, and now the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.